Alright folks, Fitz the Crack, I hope you are all well today. I've decided to change my opener because I thought the last one was a little bit too formal. So I wanted to go for something a bit more relaxed, a bit more conversational to get us going. So today I am doing the first video of what I hope to be a bit of a series. Hoping to do some date night recipes and mukbangs. So in this first date night mukbang, I am having schichimi spiced duck with udon noodles in a soup, and there's some greens in there as well. We've got some bok choy, some spring onion, and we've got some little chili slices in there as well for a bit more colour and spice. So if you'd like to get the recipe for this to have your own date night, it is a very simple recipe. It looks impressive, but trust me, it is simple. So you can check out the recipe. I'll put a link to that in the description and a link to it at the end as well, if you fancy having a go yourself. So as I make my way through my bowl, this is my bowl down here, by the way. This is yours. It's too far away from me to eat from without spilling it everywhere. As I work my way through, I'm going to be answering some first date questions off the internet. Just as a bit of fun, just give me something to talk about. So, before we do that, I'm going to have my first little taste of my meal. My first little bit of duck. The duck's really juicy. So when you cook duck, you don't cook it like you would a chicken, or you don't have to. I suppose you could roast it for as long, but it might end up quite dry. But you can treat it like a red meat, like you would a steak. So I've just pan-fried it a little bit, so you'll see that it's still quite pink in the middle. Hold on, I'll shake off the juice and then give you a close-up of that duck. Ooh, stretching as far as I can, and it's dripping. Let's bring it back. Yeah. I've cut it thicker than I probably should have because I've got quite a big bit of duck here, so I might be chewing for a while. Don't mind me. It's quite chewy. Just depends on the cut of duck that you get, I suppose. So, I've gone for udon noodles because I love udon noodles for a start. They're really chewy. So I love the texture of them. So that's why I've gone for those over like egg noodles or ramen noodles or something like that. And other reason is that they are very slurpable. But they do tend to splash a bit. So yeah, they're a bit easier to eat with the chopsticks than your standard noodles, I find, because they're a lot thicker. But you've got to watch out for that splashback. And then we've got some greens for a bit of health. The schichimi spice sort of gets into the broth as well, flavours it a little bit. It's a really nice spice. It's a Japanese spice. It's a 7 spice, so you know how you get like Chinese 5 spice. This is a Japanese 7 spice. and it's very nice with duck. And I've got some quite spicy chilies in here, so they've flavoured the broth as well. They've got the broth just the right amount of hot, spicy hot. But not blow your head off. These here are for decoration. I'm not going to be eating those, don't worry. Okay, so let's have a look at some of these questions. So these questions are from eHarmony. If you don't know what eHarmony is, it's a dating site for people who are still willing to pay for the service of dating sites as opposed to just using apps now. So I think it's probably a bit outdated now, but I googled first date questions and they had a decent few questions. The questions are a bit, how would I describe them? Flouncy. You'll see what I mean as I get into it. So there's 18 questions, but I'm not going to answer them all, otherwise we would be here for far too long. And some of them are quite similar. I have had a quick glance through them, but not really like rehearsed answers. So, question number 1 is, who are the most important people in your life? I don't think you can answer this question anything other than family, unless your family are like really awful or dead. So yeah, I'm going to say my family. So mum, dad, sister, not in that order. And my friends, of course. There's not really much, not really interesting way you can answer that, is it? Yeah. And Tom Hiddleston, because I adore that man. Question number 2, what makes you laugh? I really sliced the duck too big. I'd say like I have a good sense of humour. I like to laugh, so quite a lot of things will make me laugh. I suppose I like kind of silly humour, bad puns. I like dark humour as well though. I love a horror comedy. Like Tucker and Dale versus Evil or Black Sheep. Those are two really good horror comedies. Shaun of the Dead, classic. I suppose the only kind of humour I don't like is toilet humour. It just makes me feel like uncomfortable. Yeah, that's probably the only humour I don't like. Other than that, fairly easy person to make laugh. This would be a bad first date if I was just looking at my phone the whole time. I'm just looking at the questions. Okay, so number 3 is where is home? If you want to answer these questions in the comments, then please go ahead. Or if you have any other questions that you might want me to answer in future episodes, then go ahead. I'd love to see your answers as well. So yeah, where is home? I'm from Scotland, obviously. I'm from Inverness. Inverness is in the north of Scotland, and it's the last city you get to. It's the most northerly city that you get to before you just get like little villages and stuff. So it's kind of the capital of nowhere. They call it the capital of the Highlands. So that's where I grew up. Glasgow, which is obviously like a pretty famous city in Scotland other than Edinburgh, and I believe it to be the true capital. Edinburgh's like a second England, so I don't think it's, to me Glasgow's the true capital, but it's close to my heart because pretty much all my family is from Glasgow. My parents are both from Glasgow, and 3 out of 4 of my grandparents are from Glasgow. The one who isn't, my mum's mum, was from Islay, which is an island just outside Scotland, just off the coast. And they have some ridiculous amount of distilleries there for the size. Like, it's a really small place, but they've got something like, I want to say 7 distilleries, maybe 5. I think it's either 5 or 7, but there's a lot for a small area. Number 4, do you read reviews or just go with your gut? what it is. So if it's a movie or a TV show, generally I'll just watch the trailer, and if the trailer appeals, then I'll probably like it. If we're talking about restaurants, I think for restaurants I will usually just read the menu. If I like the sound of the menu, then I'll go in. If it's a takeaway, because you generally do it online nowadays, I will look at the reviews, especially if I'm in a new area. For services, or like a beautician or a hairdresser, then I'll read the reviews as well. When I say services, I'm thinking about like garages and things. You know, like if you're going to get your car fixed somewhere. Because they can scam you a bit, garages, can't they? Next is, what do your Saturdays usually look like? So, Saturday is usually my filming day. Yeah, so recently I've been filming a recipe and then the mukbang. Sorry, I've got a bit of a cold today. Not really what you want on a date. It's hard to be ladylike when you've got a cold. If you're sniffling and coughing away. And you've spilt your soup down your dress. You're not going to want to go on a second date with me, are you? Yeah, so recently I've been filming 2 videos in 1 week. And then that means that I can have the next Saturday off. The broth tastes really good when the spice mix gets into it. Yeah, and then recently, what I've started doing in some of the extra time that I've got is I've been doing a bit of gardening. Now that I've got a little garden, I'm growing some vegetables. So they're just starting to sprout. I feel like such a proud mama when they just start coming up like little babies. Little babies that will grow into big vegetables and I will then eat. Oh. Other than that, what would I do on a day off? I suppose go shopping or hang out with friends, stuff like that. Normal human activities. I'm trying not to slurp, but this spoon is like designed for slurping, I think. It's not frowned upon to slurp your food in Japan. I think you're supposed to, actually. I think you're supposed to, especially like ramen, you're supposed to slurp the noodles. It's like a sign of appreciation or something. Or to like aerate the broth, I think is another thing I've heard. But my Britishness will not let me do it. Let's see what other questions we've got. Yeah, some of the questions are a bit similar. What's the most interesting job you've ever had? See, this is what I mean by things being like a little bit flouncy. Like some of them are a bit like job interview questions. I think if you're on a first date with someone, you don't want to make it sound like they're being interviewed. You want to have like a normal human conversation. You know, between like the kind of conversation you would have with a friend. I mean, obviously there's some stuff that you kind of want to suss out about a person if they're potentially going to be like your future life partner. But yeah, you've got time to figure that stuff out if you do like them. I've forgotten that question now. What's the most interesting job you've ever had? To be totally honest, I think the most interesting job I've ever had is the job that I've got now, but I have spoken about that in other videos. So I'm going to change that to what's the most fun job I've ever had. The most fun job I've ever had was at Millie's Cookies. Obviously, like, I love to cook. So just baking cookies and decorating cookies every morning was great. I used to do like the early shift, which was when most of the stuff got baked, and then you'd like bake other stuff throughout the day as well to like keep things topped up. And then there was less customers at that time because, yeah, I'm the kind of person who would rather like be in the back working away than like talking to people, even though that is very much what I have to do now. But yeah, I suppose I would rather be baking than talking to people. But it wasn't just the fact that I got to bake all day. It was also the staff. The staff were great. We all got along really well. We all just gelled. And it was, you know, like, it was fun to go to work. You go and you'd like have a laugh with folk and just talk about whatever. But it was funny, sorry, I've got a bit of a cold. So I would come in on the Saturday morning and I'd be the first person there, which meant that I got to leave at like just after lunchtime, I think it was. So there was two people that usually started like a little bit later than me. Maybe like, I think it was something like an hour or two after me. And so there was like these two girls that usually did that shift. And they both, I don't know what it was, they both came in and it was like Sunday confessions. They just told me everything. Like they would come in and be like, tell me like who they slept with, like what the drama was, all this sort of stuff. I was there thinking like, why are you telling me this? How can you trust me with this information? But no, it was good. We all got on. We were all like quite close. Not just the girls, the lads as well. There were some lads that were really nice as well to get on with. Right, this one is, in which television show's world would you most want to live? So, I think some people would just automatically answer this with like whatever their favourite show was. But a lot of the shows that I like are like sci-fi or fantasy, that sort of thing. So, this one's maybe a bit tricky for me because those shows you wouldn't really want to live in that world. Take like Game of Thrones. I know automatically that you're probably going to die because people just die left, right, and centre in that show, and it's not even like the good person gets saved and the bad person gets killed. So. Yeah, I suppose it's too much like real life. And say things like Harry Potter. No, they're movies and books as opposed to TV shows. But that would be an awful world to live in. It sounds good because you've got like, it's a magical world with spells, so you can like make anything that you want come out of this wand. You think you can do whatever you want, but the problem is so can lots of other people who might not have good intentions. Like you wouldn't know what was real and what wasn't. You got things like love potions, the polyjuice potion. They say like it's a difficult potion to make, but then like these kids are making it, so how difficult is it to make really? And then you think of the justice system. If you commit a crime, or if you're falsely accused of a crime, there's no rehabilitation. You get thrown in solitary confinement, and that's it. Potentially for the rest of your life. That's what Azkaban looked like anyway. Looked like solitary confinement. And then, you know, that's the good option. The other option is you get your soul sucked out. So yeah, it's not very just, is it? So, I suppose if I was to live in a fictional world, I suppose the best sort of thing would be like a romantic comedy. But I don't like romantic comedies. They're not my jam. They just tend to be bad films. Like, not very well written. Acting's not necessarily great either. Generally, like, poorly made. I apologise if you do like romantic comedies, but you know, not my jam. I suppose something like Brooklyn Nine-Nine. That's a show that I enjoy. I love that show because it's, I suppose it's a bit like real life, except it's funnier and it tends to be like that the good people get good outcomes in life and bad people get, they get rehabilitation, and they get the chance to like prove themselves to be better. But there is like justice. So yeah. Brooklyn Nine-Nine is a world that I would want to live in. Well, I'm out of noodles. I've just got a little bit of broth left. Sorry my bowls aren't matching. I do want to finish this broth because it is tasty broth. Oh, there's a little bit of noodle left. Well, that's all the questions that I've got time for. I was actually planning on answering a couple more, but I've finished my noodles now. So as always, thanks so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, give us a like, give us a comment and subscribe for more content like this in the future. And please do let me know if you liked the date night video, and let me know if you'd like me to do more of those in the future. I thought it was quite fun, so I think I'm going to keep going. But till then, cheerio, bye. Video, and if you'd like me to do more of these. But till then, oh,